Satchidanandarupaya Vishvotpatyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene brahmahradaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayaha Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Dhamna svena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayonmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Kim va parerishvaraha Sadyo hridyavarudyate kritibihi Shushrushubistakshanat. For 1 minute, we will invoke toughness and evoke hope. Hari Om, and greetings from Niagara Falls. When one engages in sakama karma, these are selfish actions, such as living for pleasure, possessions, position, that karma has to be performed perfectly for the fruit to manifest. Have you ever mixed salt and sugar in your tea, in your coffee? If it's not perfect, you put salt instead of sugar, it's terrible. Have you ever used Brill cream instead of toothpaste? I have. It's terrible. When one engages in nishkama karma, selfless actions, when one lives for peace, that karma does not have to be perfect for the fruit to manifest. When one engages in nishkama karma, the karma itself is the fruit. Nishkama karma, or selflessness, is karma yoga. For 50 hours, we have been focusing on bhava, Bhava means feeling. When one feels for creation, when one feels for the Creator, you let go of being a perfectionist. You let go of control. And so you feel more fulfilled, and all that you interact with, they feel more fulfilled too. You stop speaking of happiness. You start to speak from happiness. Rishi Shuka is sharing with Raja Parikshita all of the details of the churning of the Milky Ocean. The 10 materials that came from this churning. Number 1, Kala Kuta. Number 2, Kamadhenu. Number 3, Uchchai Shrava. Number 4, Airavata. Number 5, Kaustubha. 6, Parijata. 7, Apsaras. 8, Rama. That's Devi, Lakshmi. 9, Varuni. And 10, the Amrita carried by Dhanvantari. The churning of the Milky Ocean is a symbol of our journey. Our journey from being extroverts to being introverts. I shared a lot of those connections last week. I'm going to remind you of when we were in Skanda 3 and Devi Devahuti asks her enlightened son, Rishi Kapila, how can I be enlightened? How can I be unstuck? And Devi Devahuti's life is perfect outside. All pleasure, possession, position, but the peace is not perfect. And so he shares with her what her journey is to be. And as I share this, please note it and put a check mark where you've been. We go from stuck to unstuck, starting with satsanga. Satsanga passes you on to kata. Kata passes you on to shraddha. So the association with the noble allows you to experience the narrations of the divine. And then you start to feel faithful. Shraddha passes you on to rati. Rati means you start to enjoy more. You're more independently joyous. Rati passes you on to bhakti. In your enjoyment of your own self, now your bhakti is to peace. Forget about position, possession, pleasure. And bhakti passes you on to virakti. Virakti is independence, where if there's any pleasure, possession, position, that's a bonus, but you do not live for that. And virakti passes you on to dhyana. Dhyana means contemplation. Now I take you back to the first skanda, when Raja Parikshita asks Rishi Shuka, what should a dying man do? Rishi Shuka responds with saying one should contemplate. First you contemplate on creation. The fulfillment of that is you start to contemplate on the Creator. And the fulfillment of that is you start to contemplate on consciousness. From the outside, in. From extrovert to introvert. So where are you on your journey? Satsang, Kata, Shraddha, Rati, Bhakti, Virakti, Dhyana. And dhyana in 3 levels: creation, creator, consciousness. You're all on contemplation on consciousness, yes? No need for satsang anymore. And now we'll study one more shloka from this skanda. And this has to do with Bhagwan Shiva and Bhagwan Vishnu and the child that they had together. Fascinating, no? Okay, I am on the 8th skanda, the 12th adhyaya, the 36th shloka, 8:12:36. Atha vagata mahatmya atmano jagadatmanaha apparineya viryasya na mene taduhadbhutam. Bhagwan Shiva says to Bhagwan Narayana, I am not at all amazed by my delusion. You are the spirit of this entire multiverse, including me. You are the director. I am the directed. So hold that, and now I'll come to how is it that Bhagwan Shiva and Bhagwan Narayana are speaking to each other. After the Asuras found out that they were tricked from not getting any of the Amrita, they were furious. And they started to fight. And there's many chapters on the details of this fighting. I'm going to read to you some of the English. Most fascinating. As I'm reading this to you, I don't want you to treat this as a story, but put yourself in this battlefield. Okay? These are just different sections. They fought sitting on various kinds of vehicles and mounts. Some on camels, some on elephants, some on donkeys, some on gores, I have no idea what that is, some on bears, some on tigers, and some on lions. Some others had vultures, herons, cranes, and falcons as vehicles. Still others rode on whales, sarabhas, buffaloes, rhinoceros, oxen, gavayas, and arunas. Still others were riding on jackals, rats, chameleons, hares, men, goats, krishnasaras, swans, and horses. So much detail. Don't you want to ride a chameleon? I want to ride a whale. Now, I'll describe to you. Those are the vehicles. What they were using with these vehicles. They fought with various weapons, like bushundis, discuses, maces, lances, spears, javelins, firebrands. Firebrands are like Molotov cocktails, no? That's where they got this from. Tridents, axes, scimitars, ballas, iron clubs, hammers, and bindi palas. Do you know what bindi palas are? I would be amazed if you did. Yeah, we have one in the backyard. It's a catapult. Isn't that fascinating? A catapult. Here's one more detail of this fight. So the Asuras and Suras are fighting, and the Asuras, they're trained in black magic. So this is what they do. Soon, a mountain appeared above the ranks of the Devas. From that mountain, trees set ablaze by the forest fire and rocks with sharp edges began to fall and pulverize the Deva army. I should read this on our next walk together, correct? Also began a reign of pythons, fanged vipers, scorpions, lions, and tigers, and wild boars that caused devastation among the elephants. That's an intense fight. And I'm sharing all of this Because sometimes your days are like this too, correct? We all feel the same in terms of the vehicles and the weapons and the black magic. So what to do when you're being attacked from every front? From the changes in society, from your bank account, from your health. What the Suras did was they contemplated on Bhagwan Narayana. And when he manifested as light, what happened to all of that darkness? It was dispelled. As you think, so you develop. If you're thinking negatively, you will develop negativity. But if you collaborate, you think Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namah Shivaya, your thinking is changed and so will your development. If there's tamas inside, bring in sattva. That's what's shared in this fight. Finally, the Suras defeat the Asuras. And the leader of the Suras, Indra, is having this verbal fight with Bali, known as Mahabali, laughing at him, taunting him that you lost again. And this is what Mahabali says back to Indra. Mahabali is special. We'll get to know him more in our next semester. He says, and please, please, please internalize this for your present challenge. Neither victory nor defeat is permanent with any party. Wise men find the regulating influence of time in all of these matters. They, therefore, are not elated or depressed in success or failure. You seem to be ignorant of all of this. Bali is telling this to Indra as Bali's losing. But he's not a sore loser. This is quite true, no? If we can practice this, we would never be up and down. We would always be balanced. The Suras, in their thirst for total annihilation, are now being mean, are being violent with the Asuras. So Bhagwan Brahma sends Rishi Narada to Indra to tell him to stop. Enough. We do that in games too. If someone is losing too bad, you say, okay, game over, let's change teams, right? This is all regulated. Bhagwan is watching all of this. And the fight is complete then. And now we move to Bhagwan Shiva. Bhagwan Shiva is with Devi Sati and his whole crew. And they're enjoying in Kailasha. And word comes to Bhagwan Shiva that the Suras were able to drink the Amrita. He felt kind of jealous. He had to drink poison and they got to drink Amrita. What kind of deal is this? And then he found out how this happened, and this happened because of Mohini, the form of Bhagwan Narayana. So he goes with Devi Sati, with his crew, to Vaikuntha. They go on a short trip. They get there fast to Vaikuntha. And when Bhagwan Shiva, he sees Bhagwan Narayana. I want you to note this down, okay? This is chapter 12, verses 4 to 13. Try to study this. This is an amazing portion where Bhagwan Shiva is sharing with Bhagwan Narayana the dynamics between Brahman and Bhagwan. That always confuses us, yes? This portion is amazing because Bhagwan Shiva knows these details. And then Bhagwan Shiva asks Bhagwan Narayana, I heard about Mohini. I would like to see her. and Bhagwan Narayana, and this is all described, with a deep, meaningful smile, changes where they are into a garden. The greatest garden, with the most fragrant flowers and best sounds. Imagine yourself there. It's like if you've ever been to Jamaica. At night you hear all of those insects, correct? It's so soothing. It's like in India, I think it's called night jasmine or night queen. It's so fragrant. So you have to put yourself there. So you go from Vaikuntha, which is already amazing, to an even more amazing garden. And Bhagwan Shiva finds only he's there. And then he hears these light bells in the distance. And he sees an even more amazing, we'll call her a Devi, call her a woman. And she's being most flirty. You know, like in a Bollywood movie. When they go to each other's homes and they keep looking at each other but not looking at each other. So this flirting is happening. In this garden, Bhagwan Shiva didn't go by himself. He simply forgot that Devi Sati was right beside him. He forgot that his crew was with him. He was that captivated by Mohini. So much so, in his excitement, he ejaculated. And upon that excitement and ejaculation, Bhagwan Narayana brought back the scenery to Vaikuntha with Devi Sati. The semen that hit this garden really is Bhagwan Narayana, correct? So this connection between Bhagwan Shiva and Bhagwan Narayana, a child was born known as Harihara Putra, more popularly known as Ayyappa. Harihara Putra is now more popularly known as Ayyappa. Where this word Ayyappa has come from, it's a form of Arya. The word Arya means noble. That's more Sanskrit. I believe in Malayalam, father means, they say father with Acha or Achan. And in Tamil, father is Appa. So all of this combined became Ayyappa. And why this is important to note, I've heard such nasty interpretations of this, about how the divinities in Sanatana Dharma are homosexuals. When one is divine, there is no sexual orientation. There's no gender norm. Yes? That's why I wanted to share that this is a connection between Bhagwan Shiva and Bhagwan Narayana. And Bhagwan Shiva says openly, I knew everything that was happening. I know what is happening. This was a sport for me. Now we need to think about this from the Vedanta part. The katha is over. That's what happens in this scene. But this is important to us. This is part of our history, our culture. Okay. How many arms does Bhagwan Narayana typically have? You typically see him with 4, yes? In one hand, he has a conch. In another, a mace, that's a gada. In another, a discus, a Sudarshan chakra. And in the fourth, a padma, a lotus. The conch is him calling us from pleasure to peace. If you listen, you get the lotus. Only 2 hands then. For the best students, those who love Bhagwan the most, there's not 4 hands. There's only one hand. There's only the Padma. The second best students, there's a conch and there's a lotus. The third best students, they didn't listen to the conch, so they get hit with that mace. And then they get the lotus. And the fourth best students, and I'm highlighting that we are all students, whether we're the first best or fourth best. Don't listen to the call, don't listen to the knock, only listen to the cutting. And then the lotus is given. That's what a parent does, correct? The ideal child, the parent doesn't have to call the child just comes. If not, then the conch. You have to speak to a child. Please come over here, let's do this. And if they don't listen, I'm not saying you hit them physically, but you have to shift from more of a loving tone to a more disciplinary tone, yes? And if the matter is of safety, you go into discus mode, right? It's not a disciplinary tone, it's you pull them off of that counter so they don't fall. I'm sharing this because in everything that we've studied in Bhagavatam, particularly this skanda, you have to see the hand of God in all of this. Sometimes more loving, sometimes more disciplinary, but in all times, Bhagavan is expressing his love. We interpret too literally about heaven and hell, and we're not reflecting on this enough. We're not seeing the subtlety of the teaching. During the churning of the Milky Ocean, everyone felt that they controlled the Amrita. The Asuras thought, we're going to get it. The Suras thought, we're going to get it. Who finally controlled the Amrita? Bhagavan, the hand of God. In this narration, do you think Bhagavan Shiva and Bhagavan Narayana are different? This is poetry. Bhagavan Shiva knows. Why does he want to see Mohini? Because he's not attracted to Devi Sati. Think more. When you see Bhagavan Shiva, Devi Parvati is always on his lap because they're the same. Do you ever feel lusty towards yourself? Can you give birth to yourself? All of that is impossible. This is an impossibility too. Here's the profound teaching. You've all heard where Bhagavan Shiva burns Kama with his third eye, yes? And then Kama no longer has a form. So Kama is feeling really bad that he teased Bhagavan Shiva and that he doesn't have a form. So now Bhagavan Shiva is reciprocating, showing how powerful Kama is. Not on Bhagavan Shiva, but rather a message for us. We may feel Kama's gone. Kama's not gone. Kama's still as if working on Bhagavan Shiva in this narration. We have to be vigilant. Vigilant that in our journey, the hand of God is there. Vigilant as we're evolving that I've transcended anger, that I've transcended Kama. Be vigilant. Bhagavan is most empowering. In the churning of the Milky Ocean, everyone thought that they were doing it when it was Bhagavan. See how empowering Bhagavan Shiva is towards Kama. But this sense of empowering shouldn't bleed into arrogance, inadvertence. And so the final thought of this semester for all of you. I began this skanda sharing. This is a section on going from goodness to greatness, from dharma to saddharma. And there's 4 ways to do that. All of these have to be practiced. And the first is smarana. The remembrance of God is how you go to greatness. in the churning of the Milky Ocean, to be humble. In Bhagwan Shiva's apparent delusion, to be vigilant. If you remember God, you will always be humble and always be vigilant. This is what the word Bhagavata means. Bhagavata means relating to Bhagwan, belonging to Bhagwan. The one who engages in such remembrance relates all to God, feels that they belong to God. Oh.